guys? Welcome back. So we've talked about social media and the impact it's had on society. And although social media has helped us become the most connected we've ever been, we're also ironically the loneliest we've ever been. According to the US Surgeon General, loneliness is at the heart of the growing mental health crisis. Mental health is the defining public health crisis of our time, and for many Americans, loneliness is at the heart of that crisis. Today we'll be discussing the loneliness epidemic that's overtaken the US and the factors that have contributed to this problem, as well as solutions that we can help minimize our loneliness. Hello! Sorry, I'm interrupting this video really quickly for some breaking news. Just kidding. Just a really quick comment. I just noticed while editing that my audio didn't record properly. I was using my Rode mic, as you could tell in the video, and I thought everything was good to go, but I had no idea that I accidentally had the megaphone voice effect on. And I would have noticed that had I had my headphones on, lesson learned. And because I didn't have my headphones on, I didn't realize that it was on. So the entire audio that was recorded on my mic was literally me talking, but sounding like I was using a megaphone to talk. So of course I wasn't going to torture you with that. Thankfully, my camera was recording using its built-in audio, built-in recording device, so I'm going to use that. So I apologize if the audio is not as good as it could be or normally is. Also, you're probably going to hear lots of rain because it was raining very hard that day. So my apologies. I just wanted to make note of this in case you noticed it. I did notice, and I'm fixing, and we'll make sure to try to make sure that it's better next time. A second note, I realized I was pretty low energy in the beginning of this video. It does pick up, my energy does pick up. But granted, I did film this video after work. I was exhausted, but I had all my talking points. I wanted to get this video recorded. And anyways, I'm normally very energetic. So I was like, what is wrong with me? But anyways, sorry for interrupting this video. I just wanted to make that quick comment, and maybe you didn't notice, and maybe I shouldn't have mentioned this at all, but well, I did it anyways. Okay, back to the video. But first, hit that like and subscribe button to see more content like this. Here are just a few reasons why I personally think we're seeing this wave of loneliness come through, starting with 1, how we choose to spend our time. Now, of course, we all know how COVID shifted everything, including the way we interact with others. Working from home, meetings done through Zoom or online, and everything being done virtually. Very little in-person contact. All of this has had a huge impact on how we interact and engage with others, especially in terms of creating new relationships as well as maintaining them. Suffice to say, it definitely contributed to this feeling of loneliness, anxiety, and for some, even depression. Reason number 2, we have an individualistic society. I think we as Americans are generally, or at least strive to be, as independent as possible. I know I've always wanted to be self-sufficient financially, and I try not to rely on others as much as possible. Although in my case, I more so just didn't want to be a burden on others. But I think an unintentional consequence of this individualism is just that, an unreliance. Wait, is that even a word? That feeling that we don't need anyone for anything. Not even help or support or even just someone to hear you out, because we feel like we have to do it all on our own. But in the end, what does that do? It leaves us hopeless, isolated, that feeling like we can't or that we shouldn't ask for help, even when we need it. Okay, reason number 3, lack of convenient places and culture. A third place is a lovely place, usually outdoors, where communities can gather and pretty much just socialize and be together. Third places are super common actually all throughout Latin America and Europe. I know I've traveled to a lot of places where there's like in Mexico, there's a lot of plazas. People will get off work and they will go to the local plaza to just chit chat or grab a snack with friends or coworkers and just hang out. So wholesome. Something that I thought was worth mentioning and that I notice every time I go abroad is the culture difference. The culture in a particular area can play a huge role in how others interact with each other. Many cultures actually promote a very extroverted, very social society. In fact, having a 3-hour conversation with a stranger, a complete stranger sitting next to you on a bench, is completely normal. I also see this in my Mexican-American family. Even though we're a very large family, we're very close. I mean, everyone's all up in their business type of close. Oh, someone broke your heart? Where does he live? I'll bring the primas. Trust me, you'll never be lonely in a Latino family. But this isn't the case across the board with all cultures. I know many cultures that are actually the complete opposite and can feel very isolated and alone even within your family. This kind of ties in with the whole individualistic society that I mentioned earlier, because it's almost like we've forgotten the importance of community and feeling a closeness with one another. It's our human nature to feel connected. I mean, some people don't even know their neighbor's name. I grew up in a neighborhood where by no means was wealthy or considered upscale, by the way. We all depended on each other. We all looked out for one another. I remember my younger brother always getting in trouble because the neighbor would always tattletale on him. She would let my mom know when whoever he was hanging out with, whatever he was doing. And, he was young and dumb. We were all young and dumb. Everyone was always looking out for each other. Although, it also did involve neighbors being very nosy. Oyes, comadre, yo vi tu hijo con Julana. Chisme, puro chisme. And for those of you who don't know, that means gossip. Reason number 4, pressure of relationships. Heartbreak. Or the lack of, I guess. Guys, dating is hard, okay? Now, I'm married, but I too was once single and mingling and dating, and the dating game sucked even back then. I can't imagine how it is now. But I remember the frustrations, the disappointments, and the loneliness I'd feel after like a breakup or something. From what I've heard from my friends, it's only gotten harder. Which makes me ask, what's changed? I personally think that people's expectations for relationships have changed. Dating apps, although it's done some good, has kind of ironically made dating more complicated. I personally have found that apps are typically better, like if you want to do real dating, like you really want to make a connection with someone and you want to find a committed relationship. I find that the apps are usually better at the beginning, like when they're just launched, because eventually it just falls down into the dump just like the others and turns into a hookup app. So I guess my tip here is if you're going to use the dating apps, try to use some of the newer ones. This also leads to my next thought, and that is that hookup culture has really hurt relationships and the people in it, both mentally and emotionally actually, but that's for another video. Most people want to find love or a romantic partner that they can share life with, that they can do things with, and the struggles of dating have ultimately made people feel hopeless. Also, there's the outside pressures to find someone, because that can make someone feel like they have to find someone in order to not be lonely. And like, I really have to admit, I'm gonna be honest, it is nice coming home to my husband, having someone to do things with, someone to talk to, but at the end of the day, I don't rely on him for my overall happiness. He adds to my happiness, and I feel like I'm the luckiest girl to have him, but I cannot rely on him like a crutch. I know people like to say that, like, oh, he's my crutch, but I don't think it's healthy to rely on someone that, it's dependent on them, all my happiness lies in your hands type of thing. I don't think it's healthy. 1, that's a lot of pressure for the other person. And 2, it's not good for me to rely on someone else for my own happiness and overall mental well-being. In fact, there's actually a lot of people out there who are married and still feel lonely. I personally don't believe that everyone has to be in a relationship or that's the only way to happiness. I do think it's a beautiful thing to be in a healthy and stable relationship, but I don't think that everyone is called for it, and that's okay. All right, I feel like there are so many other factors that I didn't get to touch on due to time. So many things like technology's effect on loneliness or the lack of community after school years, but I wanted to make sure that I left enough time to go over some possible solutions that can help ease your loneliness, if any of you are experiencing it. I know I for sure have in the past. I know it's not easy, especially if starting a random conversation with a random person is not your thing. The first thing I'd recommend is finding a particular group setting where you know for a fact that you'll have at least one thing in common with someone. For example, if you're into cars, go to a car meetup. I mean, you're at least guaranteed to have at least one thing in common with someone there. Starting up a conversation surrounding cars, if you're in that car meetup, would feel very natural and organic. It wouldn't feel forced at all. For all my Christian Catholic viewers out there, or anyone of any religion, take advantage of your church events and social gatherings. Even the U.S. General mentions this by stating that there has been declining participation in communal life. Fewer people belong to churches or synagogues or other religious institutions or are engaged with civic organizations. That's actually one of the many things that I love about my church is I feel a very strong sense of community when I'm there, and I know I have a great support system there if I'm ever struggling or ever in a predicament. The second thing I'd recommend is to find company with yourself in the meantime. Get to know and appreciate yourself more, your thoughts, your ideas, your interests. It could be done through reading or meditating. I personally have found that I've learned more about myself the more I learn about God and my faith and just spending time in prayer. In fact, I feel much less lonely the more connected I feel to a higher being, something bigger than myself. And for me, that's God. Okay, 2 last ones that are going to sound oddly specific, but trust me, they're hidden gems. Get a part-time job at a gym and try to get the morning shift and try to work the front desk. Okay, hear me out. I am telling you right now. Listen, I know no one wants to be bothered at the gym. Okay, I get it. But this is different. When people come in and they check in, you can kind of get a sense of the vibe, you know, whether they want to talk or they're just get me through and they would just want to start their workout. You'd be surprised by the amount of people who actually want to chit chat. And the best part is you're going to see them again because odds are they probably are going to come every single day around the same time. So there's consistency. This is also a great tip for anyone who wants to network, by the way. And last but not least, get more sunlight. That vitamin D. Studies have actually been done to show the correlation on this. So I'm not just making this up or pulling this out of a hat. In fact, the Center for Health Management and Policy Research did a study on a sample size of 787 ORNs, which I believe are operating room nurses, and have found a positive association between sunlight exposure and mental health. I repeat, get sunlight. I mentioned this study because loneliness has a lot to do with overall mental health in general, right? And so even minor tweaks like getting some sun or going outside, getting sunlight can seem minor, but can be major in terms of overall impact. Ultimately, I want to leave off on a positive note and let you know that there's hope. There's always hope. The US General also goes on to state that ultimately it comes down to one thing: embrace love. I do think that there's been a shift in today's society and culture, and as a result, we've lost our sense of community, causing so many to feel lonely and isolated. And although I hope we can change this, in the meantime, we could still do something about it for ourselves. It might even feel like a small step, but it's a step in the right direction. We don't have to go down with it. We don't have to accept our doomed fate as a victim. I'll leave you with this. As Eleanor Roosevelt once said, "It is better to light one small candle than to curse the darkness." Thanks for watching. I'll see you guys next time.